We are literally listening to fake news. I don't know who linked me this and asked if this was like a fair. This is literally fake news. So this guy's presentation of this is that Washington Post hasn't done a substantial breakdown of anything Giuliani claimed, and instead they're just doing ad homs about how he looks. And the way that he's established this opinion is by ripping out a random article from the lifestyle section of the Washington Post. Imagine this in any other circumstance. All right, guys, listen up, okay? We're gonna have a press conference. We don't have all the evidence now. That's not how this works. It's not fucking TV, okay? I'm just having it to let you guys know what's going on. By the way, John, he's a fucking rapist. Now listen, I don't have the evidence right now, okay? However, just take my word for it, okay? And you'll see in court. Like, why the fuck are you out here publicly stating this? Well, let's take a listen.
Last week, Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, gave a press conference like I've never seen before. His team claims Donald Trump won the election in a landslide. But Democrats committed voter fraud on a massive scale to rig the election. And that's why it appears Joe Biden won. It is literally a conspiracy theory that there was a conspiracy to commit voter fraud to make sure Trump lost and Biden won. First, I'll talk about how the media has covered this story. Terribly. They've done a terrible job. That seems to be something I talk a lot about on the show these days. In general, the media has been completely unwilling to look at accusations of voter fraud. They've called it a barrage of lies, baseless, with absolutely no evidence. But the problem with Giuliani? He actually has a good reputation as a lawyer. Here's CNN.
In Manhattan in the 1980s, famously went after some heavy hitters on Wall Street and took on the 5 heads of the New York crime families.
So are you seeing headlines like, lawyer who took on Wall Street and the mob says he's found evidence of widespread voter fraud? No, you are not. The media are making ad hominem attacks on Giuliani. Ad hominem means directed against a person rather than against what that person says. This is a common propaganda tactic. If you can't discredit what someone says, discredit the person instead. So sure, once upon a time, Giuliani may have been a force to reckon with, but now he's a hot mess. And this from CNN.
Black liquid streamed down Giuliani's face at one point. It was an event that the Daily Beast called unhinged. The New York Times called it rambling. A Washington Post headline said it was part of Giuliani's post-election meltdown.
CNN also interviewed Giuliani's former colleagues.
It has been heart-wrenching to see him destroy his legacy.
It saddens me every time I see him because I know
are you
what
sure about those hoppers?
what a strong and confident and competent person he was.
Yes, Giuliani has completely lost it. We can't listen to a word he says anymore. And please, whatever you do, don't actually watch the press conference yourself and listen to what he says. I mean, the guy looks like the Joker, for heaven's sake. Please, just let the media tell you what happened. Like the Washington Post. Giuliani's post-election meltdown starts to become literal. For instance, did you know Giuliani referenced the movie My Cousin Vinny?
Did you all watch My Cousin Vinny?
That one short reference was a very central part of the hour-and-a-half press conference. Absolutely. And then the Washington Post goes on to say someone texted them asking, is he deteriorating in real time? So, ad hominem attacks. And then the article makes this point. If Rudy is deteriorating, then so is anyone who listens to him. Bingo. This is how ad hominem attacks work. Establish that Giuliani is crazy, and so anyone who listens to him must be crazy as well. At no point in this article does it go over the specifics of what Giuliani and his team said.
Okay, an ad hominem attack is when you try to discredit the argument of a person based solely on personal characteristics. It is not illegitimate to attack a public figure's character, however, period. The character of our elected officials, or people representing said elected officials, can be pretty important, and maybe probably should be pretty important. I'm willing to bet that if I look at a Washington Post, Rudy Giuliani voter fraud claims, I'm pretty sure that we can probably find articles that goes into the specific claims that were made. Hold on. This talks about how courts in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania have rejected the arguments, and then links to arguments related to rulings. It talks about false claims U.S. votes are counted in Europe by a company owned by affiliates of Venezuela's authoritarian socialist leaders and the U.S. blah, blah, blah. Cybersecurity official responding. Like, we can find these. Just because you found one op-ed that attacks Giuliani's character, like, what is the goal of this? Do you never expect any character attacks to happen when people show themselves to be of ill repute? This is part of what journalism does.
Instead,
also, he's quoting an article from the lifestyle section of Washington Post. It's literally the fashion section. Wait, is that actually true? Oh, style. Wait, is it? Hold on. Rudy Giuliani's post-election meltdown starts to become literal. Sorry, I'm Googling this whole... Oh, this is the lifestyle section of the Washington Post. So this guy, we are literally listening to fake news. I don't know who linked me this and asked if this was like this is literally fake news. So this guy's presentation of this is that Washington Post hasn't done a substantial breakdown of anything Giuliani claimed, and instead they're just doing ad homs about how he looks. And the way that he's established this opinion is by ripping out a random article from the lifestyle section of the Washington Post. Like, stupid as fuck.
Specifics of what Giuliani and his team said. Instead, it paints Giuliani as the increasingly unhinged driving force of a baseless voter fraud claim that is causing division and dissent within the GOP. So instead of personal attacks, how about we actually look at what Giuliani's team said at the press conference? I'll get to that after the break. Welcome back. So Trump's legal team is claiming there was a massive conspiracy to commit voter fraud, and that Trump was the legitimate winner of the election. What evidence do they actually have? Well, we don't really know yet. That's because they said the press conference was just an opening statement.
This is an opening statement. This is something where we have told you what the evidence will show, and we have given you a brief description.
I know it's not Law and Order. The makeup would be better. So the Trump team is basically saying our claim is that there was voter fraud.
I like how one thing that you can do, people do this all the time, to make it seem like you're impartial and unbiased, what you do is you always levy softball criticisms at the person you're defending to make it seem like you can't possibly be biased in their favor. Like, look, Giuliani's makeup is fucked, you know? You always lob a softball criticism at the person that you're defending to make it seem like you're impartial.
In court, we will present all of our evidence to prove it. But we aren't going to tell you, the media, everything right now.
Also, if we're going to present things in court, if we present it to you, judges are not going to be very happy with us.
So why have the press conference in the first place?
Yes.
This is basically an opening statement so the American people can understand what the networks have been hiding and what they refuse to cover, because all of your fake news headlines are dancing around the merits of this case and are trying to delegitimize what we are doing here.
So basically,
it's really, stuff like this is always going to go to a judge and never there's never going to be like a jury or whatever, right? Because I feel like, fuck, where is Apple is at? Apple is or esports Batman. This is just totally like, I'm just going off feeling here. I feel like a judge would be more pissed if you tried to go public with the like evidence part of your case before even presenting it to a judge. I feel like that would be something that would like piss a judge off. Like, why the fuck are you like doing this before even like coming to court? That feels like it would be the case to me, but I could be wrong with that. I'm not sure, but it feels like that would piss a judge off more than like I don't know, more, like I don't know. It just seems really dumb.
basically, they weren't attempting to provide all the evidence at the press conference last week. They will present the evidence in court, and the court will evaluate it. Not the press, not even me. So it becomes hard to fact-check the press conference. Sure hasn't stopped the media from trying, though. But Chris,
because you can't, because it's a little bit fucked up to make a press conference. Like, imagine this in any other circumstance. This guy is hilariously partisan, by the way. Imagine this in any other circumstance. All right, guys, listen up, okay? We're gonna have a press conference. We don't have all the evidence now. That's not how this works. It's not fucking TV, okay? I'm just having it to let you guys know what's going on. By the way, John, he's a fucking racist. Now listen, I don't have the evidence right now, okay? However, just take my word for it, okay? And you'll see in court. Like, why the fuck are you out here publicly stating this? Like, Make your case in court if you want to, but like doing a press conference first to what? Get the press on your side or some American people on your side? But like, what a bizarre concept.
Say, hasn't Trump lost a string of lawsuits because there was no evidence? Technically true, but misleading. Giuliani was actually asked about this in the press conference. And I actually watched the entire thing. Those lawsuits had nothing to do with what Giuliani and his team are working on. In fact, he agreed they probably should have been thrown out.
The fact is we have very, very few lawsuits. The lawsuits you're talking about have been brought by private individuals and groups. Most of them were dismissed for lack of standing, probably correctly, because they were brought before the election took place. The election is now over. The only lawsuit we have withdrawn is the one where we got the relief that we wanted, and that's the one in Michigan.
Now, a couple days after
the Pennsylvania lawsuit that was dismissed with prejudice, I don't believe that was a case of standing. So I'm pretty sure legally, when somebody says you don't have standing, what they're saying is, why are you bringing the lawsuit? You don't have any reason. You're not party to any of this. You have no fucking reason to bring a lawsuit to this. Like, if I were to sue somebody because they said something bad about another person and I don't have like a business relationship or something, like, why? Like, there's like, you don't have standing to be part of that lawsuit, right? The Pennsylvania one, I don't think that, because that was a big one that people were talking about, I don't think that was an issue with standing. That's my understanding of what it means to like be dismissed because you don't have standing. But
the press conference, a federal judge did dismiss a Trump campaign lawsuit in Pennsylvania. The judge dismissed the case not because of the evidence, but because he said that the plaintiffs did not have the legal standing to bring the case. The Trump campaign is appealing the decision. Okay, so maybe the Trump campaign hasn't lost dozens of election cases. But does that really matter when the Department of Homeland Security called the election the most secure in American history? 100% true. They did say that. But that doesn't mean what they said was true. That Homeland Security statement was actually written by the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the CISA. And that statement was written in part by CISA's Election Infrastructure Sector Coordinating Council. And guess who sits on that council? Dominion Voting Systems, Election Systems and Software, and Smartmatic. Those are voting machines.
Are we just going to ignore everybody else on that council? Are we going to imply that those three individuals or those three representatives or those three companies on their own have the power to override everything said on that council? We are reaching so fucking hard here.
Companies, the Giuliani team is accusing of playing a huge role in rigging the election. There are many known problems with these voting machines, which I'll get to after the break. Welcome back. One of the things Giuliani's team is questioning is whether the voting machines used in this election counted votes accurately or whether it's one of the places where there was fraud. Of course, the media will tell you that those machines are totally safe and secure, unless you go back to 2016 when media were suggesting that Hillary Clinton might challenge election results in 3 states.
A lot of the challenges that were brought up about these machines have been remedied or addressed in almost every county that uses them. So the Daily Show went over this because people were criticizing them, or it might have been last week tonight. They have an entire Twitter thread where they say, hey, so one of the reasons why we criticize these machines is because they don't use paper trails. That's really bad. And in almost all of the counties where these machines were used, they changed them so they do use paper trails. A lot of the errors and problems that they had with the security around these machines has been addressed for this election. Just because there were issues with these machines in 2016, time doesn't stand still. It doesn't mean that none of those... actually, I'm sorry. Don't take my word for it. Hold on. Last week, tonight, Twitter, voting machines 2019. Can I find this? Hello to all our new viewers who have encountered our 2019 segment on voting machines through conservative media using it to push Trump's voter fraud claims. First, sorry we swear so much, but second, the way people are using that segment is horseshit. If you watch our segment through to the end, you'll notice that we say the biggest vulnerability is if a state uses direct recording electronic voting machines, or DREs, especially those without a paper trail. Good news, of the states where the Trump campaign is contesting the election results, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada, only Nevada still uses DRE machines, and even those produce a paper trail. On top of which, a huge proportion of votes this year came in on absentee ballots, which you know are paper ballots. In the story, we also suggest that a good fail-safe is to perform a risk-limiting audit after an election is completed. Georgia is wrapping up its risk-limiting audit. Pennsylvania, Nevada, Michigan are piloting risk-limiting audits this year. Arizona and Wisconsin are performing more limited audits this year. Would you like Wisconsin and Arizona to perform risk-limiting audits? Maybe the Republican-led state legislature should get on that. People are misquoting the fuck out of these earlier investigations.
Because activists said election results in those states could have been manipulated or hacked. And back in 2018, the New York Times called voting machines a crisis of election security.
It could be, but not all voting machines are the same, firstly. Secondly, using Hillary Clinton as an example is not a good look for you because Hillary conceded the election the next day.
If you'd like to know more about that, check out my previous episode about Dominion voting systems. Of course, none of those claims about actual security get fact-checked by CNN. Instead, CNN focuses on claims made by lawyer Sidney Powell. She says Dominion has links to the Clinton Foundation, George Soros, and the Venezuelan government. And CNN says none of this is true. Dominion has no corporate ties with Venezuela, the Clinton Foundation, or Soros. Yeah, sure. There are no official corporate ties. But that's not the claim Sidney Powell is making. Her claim is that there are links behind the scenes and that they worked in an unofficial way to rig the election. She says she'll present that evidence in court, not at a press conference. So is there any connection between Dominion, the Clinton Foundation, and George Soros?
Sure.
Well, yes. The CNN article even acknowledges it. It begins with the company Smartmatic. Smartmatic was founded in Florida by two Venezuelans and did provide election technology to the Venezuelan government. And during a 2004 recall election on Hugo Chavez, Chavez paid them millions of dollars to set up the country's voting machines. Chavez supporters awarded the $91 million contract to Smartmatic, even though their machines had never been used in an election before. The fact that Venezuela's communist dictator Chavez won re-election didn't surprise anyone, because it was widely believed the election was rigged. CNN goes on to say, in 2005, Smartmatic acquired a company called Sequoia Voting Systems, but the U.S. government made them sell it because they were concerned about Smartmatic's ties to Venezuela. Dominion Voting Systems later bought Sequoia. Dominion has ties to the Clinton Foundation too, just not official corporate ties. Dominion did agree to donate its technology to emerging democracies as part of a program run by the Clinton Foundation in 2014. But Dominion said in its statement that it has no company ownership relationships with the foundation, which again is not a claim anyone is making. And finally, the chairman of the board of Smartmatic's parent company is also on the board of a foundation run by Soros, Open Society Foundation.
What are these claims? So wait, hold on. I can't even follow this. So I don't even know if they're Venezuelans or Venezuelan immigrants.
Trump won the election. The reason Democrats took no seats is they didn't have time to fill ballots down the line.
True. So a company was founded by two either Venezuelan or Venezuelan immigrants in the United States. That company was acquired by a different company, or that company also provided services in Venezuela, and somebody else that was the chairman of the board of that company is the chairman of the board of another company that's ran by Soros, who probably runs dozens or hundreds of companies. How far back are we reaching here? Holy shit. What are you proving with this? Also, these are very nice stories and connections. Show me the conspiracy. Show me where somebody is coordinating with somebody to rig an election. Show me where there is some level of coordination between these people that seems to suggest that some malfeasance has occurred. That would be really nice to see.
So while CNN is technically correct to say Dominion has no corporate ties with Venezuela, the Clinton Foundation, or Soros, it's misleading because they're using a very specific allegation that no one is making to disprove the real claim that Dominion and Smartmatic equipment could be compromised. Here's another claim Powell makes.
Do you guys have any idea how much foreign shit exists in this that's made by immigrants and stuff? how much shit should we throw out? Like, Jesus Christ.
About Dominion.
But one of its most characteristic features is its ability to flip votes. It can set and run an algorithm that probably ran all over the country to take a certain percentage of.
Let's say that this was true, and I'm sorry, but like, so if you want to know, like, Destiny, how do I debate a conspiracy theorist when they bring up these points, blah, blah, blah. This is like the silver bullet kill answer, right? This is like their whole argument is done. If all of this was true, none of this was hidden prior to the election. Everybody knew what voting systems they were going to use. All of these audits had been performed before the elections in public. Why didn't anybody bring up any of these issues before Trump lost the election? Why was Trump fixated on mail-in ballots being the source of fraud? Why has that changed now to the voting systems? Why didn't anybody bring this up before the election? All these connections, all these ties, everything here was known about prior to the election.
Votes from President Trump and flip them to President Biden.
CNN says there is absolutely no evidence of this happening. Well, Sidney Powell says that she has evidence. Whether or not she actually does, we'll find out when she takes it to court. Although a few days after the press conference, Giuliani released a statement that Sidney Powell is not a member of the Trump legal team. Was it because, as CNN claimed, that her conspiracy theories were too crazy even for Trump? Well, we don't know. Sidney Powell says that she agrees she is not part of the Trump legal team, but she is still determined to take her case to court. But besides Powell's claims, there are more claims made by Giuliani that most media ignored in their fact checks. For example, witness testimony. People have sworn under oath, under penalty of perjury, that they witnessed voter fraud.
But you can't say there's no evidence. This is what we call evidence. This is direct evidence, not circumstantial. I tried many, many cases, as did all my colleagues here. You put a witness on a witness stand, the witness is testifying to their own knowledge. This witness goes on the witness stand and she will say, I was told to adjust the date on the absentee ballots. I witnessed election workers and employees going over to the voting booths with voters in order to watch them vote and coach them for whom to vote. Completely illegal. She will testify to that. I don't know, Biden's people can cross-examine her, but you can't just throw it away. Gee, there's no evidence.
It's their affidavits. Like, if you want, go to court, put a witness on the stand, and we'll see what happens. But like, running into like a press conference and saying, we've got all these affidavits. Okay, great. Well, let's go to court, put the witness on the stand, we'll see what happens. Like, that'll all be part of the trial. Like,
next time you say that, you'll be lying. Because there is evidence.
Now, to be perfectly clear, all of Giuliani's team's evidence may amount to nothing.
True.
But that's not up to the media. It'll be up to the courts to decide after they hear the evidence.
If it's up to the
since
courts,
the media isn't privy to that information.
If it's up to the courts to decide, maybe Giuliani shouldn't be talking about it before it's actually gone before a court. Maybe that would be the more responsible thing to do. Maybe.
They have no grounds to say the claims are baseless.
They have as much ground to say the claims are baseless as Giuliani has grounds to say the claims are legitimate when Giuliani is making the claims in a public forum. A claim made in a public forum can be dismissed in a public forum. He is not making legal claims because he's not before a judge, okay? Any claim that he makes right now is for social media clout and press. That's it. Any claim that somebody makes in a public forum can be dismissed by any other member of a public forum. Fuck it. If you want to go under oath or if you want to go before a judge and make that claim, then we'll leave it for the court to decide. But if Giuliani is going to take this argument public, and he's going to argue it publicly, well, you better be ready for people to criticize you publicly. Like, facts. Sorry.
But that's not going to stop them. So, what's the likelihood of the courts agreeing with Giuliani that there was voter fraud? Well, it's hard to say. I guess we won't know who won the election until the real arbiters of truth make their call. I'm talking, of course, about the bookies, who are holding back payouts because they think Trump might still win. So what do you think about the press conference? Did you watch it? I'll put a link below. Let me know in the comments what you think. And remember, I always appreciate your support. Whether it's leaving
whoever this person is, A lot of people are linking that they're fraudulent or funded by China or whatever. I don't really give a fuck about that. We don't need to know who funds him to know that everything you just said is complete and total horseshit. Whoever this person is, I would never, ever, ever rely on anything this person ever says. This is a hardcore propaganda channel. And if you weren't informed before coming into this, or if you didn't have a careful eye, you might walk away thinking that like, wow, the press is being really unfair to Giuliani. And like, yeah, he should definitely, like, this whole channel is fucking bullshit. Whatever the fuck would associate with this guy is embarrassing. This guy misrepresented what the judge said about Trump's case. It wasn't just that Trump didn't have standing. The judge said that even if he did have standing, the whole thing was fucked. The judge said Trump's campaign did not have standing to bring the lawsuit, but that even if it did have standing, it would have failed based on the merits of his case. Oh, was this the Pennsylvania one? Oh yeah, it was the Pennsylvania one. Oh, if it was, and I remember reading part of this opinion, because I think they said they had brought no evidence. The Trump's campaign had used strained legal arguments without merit and speculative accusations in its effort to throw out millions of votes. Oh yeah, I remember reading this. There's this posted all over the internet. In the United States of America, this cannot justify the disenfranchisement of a single voter, let alone all of the voters of its sixth most populated state, Brand wrote. In a statement, Trump's attorney Rudolph W. Giuliani and legal advisor Jenna Ellis said they would appeal the decision and expected the case to reach the Supreme Court. We were disappointed we did not at least get the opportunity to present evidence at a hearing, the statement said. I guess we'll see if it goes to the Supreme Court. The Arizona one was even better.
Your solicitation of witnesses yielded some affidavits from people, sworn affidavits, that you yourself determined are clearly false and spam, as you phrased it, correct? That's correct. The affidavits that you have submitted are the ones that you could not prove are false. So am I correct in saying you solicited affidavits, you received some you could prove were false, and you set those aside. The ones that you couldn't prove are false, you have submitted to the court.
Correct. They were submitted under penalty of perjury.
But the affidavits that you yourself found to be false were also submitted under penalty of perjury, right?
Correct. Improperly.
The fact that your process for obtaining these affidavits yielded affidavits that you yourself found to be false does not support a finding that this process generates reliable evidence. This is concerning. The fact that you solicited affidavits, some you know are false, some you don't know if they're false or not, and you exclude the ones that you can prove are false and submit the others. How is that a reliable process of gathering evidence? If your process for gathering declarations has yielded sworn statements under oath that your investigation has determined to be false, that doesn't give me any reason to believe that your process is one that generates trustworthy affidavits. It simply generated affidavits that you can't prove are not true. That's not the same as being trustworthy. Anything else you'd like to say?
Okay. Is it even possible this goes to the Supreme Court? The sad thing would be it goes to the Supreme Court, and even with their massive 6-3 conservative majority, they can't get favorable rulings. That would be like the ultimate sad thing for that. Do you think there's a chance that the Supreme Court sides with Trump? I personally don't think so. Fuck no. But I guess we'll see, huh? Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed. What?